Well, welcome back to the channel, or if you're the first time visitor, welcome. This is our 1966 Ford Falcon Futura. This is going to be our next project. It's going to be a long-term, multi-year project, and I'll give you a little walk around of the car here shortly. So this car is not the original paint, but it's the original paint color. It was repainted once many years ago. So it actually looks like original paint. It's appropriately faded and got a lot of flaws in it. And essentially, I bought this car for the body shell. It's the best part of the car. But it's a good blank palette for what I hope to do with it over time. Yep, she's a 6-cylinder. Most of these cars were, because they were an economy car, so though you could order it with a 289 or later a 302, this car has the 206. This one is a Cruise-O-Matic and not a 3-speed on the column. And from a distance it looks pretty good. But so up close she's got some flaws, as would be expected. The bottom corners of the rear windows have been messed with by somebody, which is not an uncommon area for rust to start. I expect that to be a little ugly. And you can see there's brown around all the window moldings. That's true of both the front and the rear. The rain gutter caulking is cracking and missing in some spots. You can see here, there's a big chunk missing. And you can see here there's some overspray and evidence of the repaint at some point. So the paint's chipping off here and there. And she's got, you know, blemishes. Character marks, I guess you'd call them. This door has a crease in it. Not bad. Easily remedied. The object of the game with these cars is to try to get one that's as rust-free as possible, and living in the Northeast, that's a really tall order. So this quarter panel is not the prettiest, but for around here that's pretty good. So I'm willing to put up with a little bit of necessity repair over time. This side's not quite as bad, but I also think this side's been worked on. Because we're missing the wheel arch molding on this side, and it looks like there might be some filler here. And there are some bubbles starting here. So, it's not without its problems. But, the object of the game with this car is to do as little exterior body work as possible. We're going to live with the flaws as long as we can and just try to stabilize the rust and fix the more important rusted areas, of which there are some. We'll get to those. But let's look at the rest of the car. And here is the Tower of Power, 120 horsepower, if you want to be exact. I just gave this thing a spray down with gunk engine degreaser, and it took about a third of it off. It's on there pretty thick. We're going to get rid of that because those are junk, and you'll see that the gas is kind of ugly looking color. This thing has a replacement gas tank, which you'll see in a little bit, and a new fuel pump, of course, but I think it's been parked since the gas tank was put in, and the gas is pretty rank. It also got an aluminum radiator, so that's a nice cost savings. Assuming that that'll work with a V8. The thickness is okay, I believe, but I'm not sure if the water inlet and outlet are in the right places, so we'll have to check on that. The immediate problems with this car is getting the engine fixed. And we've got a cracked exhaust manifold, you can see was boogered back together there. That's got to come off. And the carburetor is rebuilt but not by somebody who knew what they were doing, because it's a mess and it doesn't want to idle, and it's got issues that I'm going to have to try to deal with. These carburetors are not known for being very reliable. I'm just hoping that it was a inept prior owner and not a real permanent problem. The shaft doesn't seem to be loose, which is kind of odd, unusual. So first steps is to get the exhaust manifold off and replaced, and deal with that carburetor issue. Ultimately, the 6 is temporary. This is going to get a small block. We're going to do a Windsor, probably a 302. Sorry for all the noise. You Australians watching are going to say, why aren't you putting a Clevo in it? The fact is, Clevelands are not very popular here. They're much harder to come by. The parts are a lot more expensive. And Windsors are everywhere. So we're going to do the Windsor thing, because that's what this car, as a two-door, what it came with, had the option. Box has been ticked a little differently. Okay, the interior is terrible. Fortunately, the door cards are pretty nice. Both front and back are perfectly fine and usable. The rear seat's not as good as it looks in the pictures, and the front is at least as bad as you think it looks. The carpeting is utter trash. It's basically falling apart. There were some mice living in this car at one point. Hopefully they have vacated. I'm not 100% sure. We've got traps set up just in case. The chrome on the dashboard is all but gone. The dash pad is cracked like every single one of these cars is. And the headliner is torn, 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 torn. So we're not going to worry about that. That's going to get replaced. It came with this, well, it came with this, which I'm going to be taking out. Less said about that thing, the better. Oh yeah, I should explain this, shouldn't I? So, without pressure on the window crank handle, the window drops down about an inch at rest. It won't stay up. It doesn't go down any further than that on its own. So, I'm not sure what the cause is. There's something on the internals of the door. If anybody has an answer to that, please drop them in the comments below, because I don't want to keep that. And we'll have a look at the trunk. So the mat is currently over there drying. Gave it a good scrubbing. It's pretty bad. New fuel tank. So that saves us about $350, I believe. Now the trunk at first glance looks pretty rusty, but where it matters, it's still pretty solid. If we look at the underside of the car, and we will do that, you'll see that the frame rails and this box section of the trunk floor the rails are welded to is actually pretty solid. We just have to deal with this ugliness back here. And the pockets down in the bottom of the trunk are actually 90% there, so that's really good. One of the biggest disappointments with this, however, was the trunk lid. It is really pretty rusty, and it's coming through on the corners. As you can see there, it's not any better over here. So the framework of the trunk is actually shot, and it's been raining rust down into the trunk every time you open it. Let's see if I can make it do that. You can hear it, there's some more crap coming out. So that's going to be a problem over the long term. We're going to have to look for a trunk lid. But that is the only piece of the car, external body piece at this point, that needs replaced because of rust. The rear bumper was bent and then ghetto straightened by a previous owner and then painted with silver paint. So you can see that it doesn't fit right at all. but we can worry about that much later. So all is not perfect though. That's a rust hole behind the left front wheel. We're going to have to take care of that. That's a rust hole behind the right front wheel, and that's pretty massive. But the floors, once you get past this piece, which I think I can get from a guy, found somebody that wants to sell it. You can see the floors are really good. This is the rear wheel well. That's okay there. Now, at the back, maybe I'll get you in here. Whoops. Sorry about that. Hold on. My apologies. You can see there's some rot there right behind the rear wheel, but the frame rails are lovely. No problems there. It's the same on the other side. So that's good news. And behind this rear wheel, again, there's, can't really get you in there, but you can see that there's some problems and some crustiness that we got to cover up there. But the floors and the boxed rails are all very good. The one seat mount, which I believe is what it is, I think we're looking at it maybe here, that's a little nasty looking, but again, it's a separate part. So I think we can just replace that as necessary. And the front frame rails as well. Wonderful. Shock towers. Fabulous. Both sides, very good shape. The battery tray, well, you know, it's as you would expect. But this pocket behind here that tends to go bad on these and Mustangs, no problems there. And a brand new battery. So why a 1966 Falcon? Why not an earlier car? Why not a Mustang? Well, the Falcon is because I wanted something different. As nice and easy as it is to fix up Mustangs, they're everywhere. Everybody's got one. I love Mustangs, but I also dig the Falcons. The earlier cars are a bit archaic. The engine bay is pretty cramped. And the 64s and 5s are just built upon the same idea there. This car in 1966 was actually altered and shares the platform with the Fairlane. So it has a much wider engine bay and better track and better handling. So it's a little bit more modern. The body style, admittedly, isn't as sexy, but I like boxy cars. Unfortunately, these are not super popular. So, getting parts for these is a little rough when it comes to body and trim. I think it's pretty cool. This car came out of Maryland. And as I said, my plans for it are to put in a small block Windsor engine. We're going to have to change everything to 5-lug wheels. I'm undecided on the transmission. My original intent was to put a T5 in it. But I'm not sure if I'm going to go through all that with the linkages and stuff right away, or I might just put an automatic in it and call it good for now. The rear, of course, will have to be changed to get 5 lugs, which means going to at least an 8-inch. So the idea here is to get it running and driving for now, which it does kind of run and drive. The brakes work. Has a new master cylinder. timing gears were replaced in the engine by a previous owner. If we can get the carb and the exhaust fixed, it should be a driver. Steering is really heavy. It's got manual steering, but it's heavy even for manual steering, I think. I think there's something wrong there. So I have to look at that. Have to patch up the rust holes that matter to keep any kind of water from getting inside the car. What condition's the cowl in, you may ask? Don't know. It looks like it's all there from sticking my head under the dash, but really can't tell for sure. Wipers don't work. Switch seems to be broken. Once we get it running and driving, yes, I did trip over that mat. Once we get it running and driving, or maybe a little earlier, we'll get the interior livable, because it smells of old women and mice poop. Wheels and tires, don't know. I dig these poverty caps, so maybe we can get some 5-lug 15-inch wheels and use those over. I don't know yet. If you've got thoughts on it, please drop them in the comments below. This is, as I said, going to be a very long-term project. It's going to span several years. It's going to be a rolling, I hate to use the word restoration. We want to be able to drive this thing distances to go to shows. Current goal is to get it ready for the Falcon Nationals in 2022, which are going to be in Tennessee, and that's not too terribly far. It's about a day drive for me. So if you want to see how this car turns out and the steps to get there, do hit that subscribe button. And the little bell will alert you when new videos pop up. I don't like to harp on that because I'm not a commercial YouTuber, but it's the best way to follow this thing. And I'm going to try to keep the videos short and sweet for the most part, so that they can be watchable and you don't have to commit an hour of your life or more to it. So please let me know what you want to see. I am not a professional mechanic. I'm self-taught. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know that I have some skills. Sometimes I really stick my foot in it and fail miserably. So I'm not going to show you how to do things so much, because I'm not a person that should be giving advice. Yep, tripped over it again. But I will show you what I've done and what I'm doing. Maybe not as I'm doing it. Or if you think how-tos by an untrained, unprofessional would be the way to go, let me know. Maybe we can do some of that. I am the administrator of a Facebook group called Forgotten Falcons, which is specific to these 66 to 70 cars. And I'll have another video that talks more about these specific cars. But if you want to become a member of that, please log in there and let us know. And I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for watching.